Up is a sitcom, which means it's different from drama. It's a situational comedy. And I will toss to Richard first just to tell us the brief concept of Mixed Up before we get into the music side of it.
Okay. That's the one purpose I have here.
Right? No, wait, actually, but then let me add it. Tell us how you came about in terms of writing. Were you thinking about the music that you wanted to add to the story?
Okay, yeah. You know, interestingly, before I give the answer, interestingly enough, when I first started writing, and more for theater than for, of course, film and television, a guy who was very experienced out of England told me that one of the mechanisms, like if you wanted to get a particular scene to feel a particular way, is to use music reflective of that scene as the writer. And I know for America Dance, for those of you who've seen it, and for those of you who didn't, one of the actresses is here actually.
Yes.
When I was writing that play, there were certain very emotional scenes, and I actually played music in the background, and on loop, that I just felt captured that moment for me, and it was just there in the background, playing, and the professor who had indicated that to me was absolutely correct, because I started to feel very emotional as the writer writing the scene. And I think it comes out in the play in terms of if you've ever seen it, it's very emotional. It goes on a whole roller coaster of different emotions. And so the importance of music, even in theater and even as a writer from the start. Now for Mixed Up, of course, just to give you a brief synopsis, it's about a mixed up family in the sense of an Indo-Trinidadian wife, Afro-Trinidadian husband, ethnically mixed children. They're also on either side of they have diversity from a religious perspective. The wife comes from a Hindu religion. The husband from Catholic Orisha, and the grandmothers are very opinionated and bring their influence and their conservative values to bear on the family, even though the parents are taking the position that the children are not going to be religious at this age. When they are 18, they can decide whether they want to be Hindu, whether they want to be Catholic, whether they want to believe in anything at all. Of course, the two grandmothers can't tolerate that. That's ridiculous. And they have to believe now and have something to cling on. But in it, we brought in, we tackled a lot of different topics, including racism, diversity of religion, bullying, different topics that are in contemporary life in Trinidad and Tobago today, but all through the lens of humor. And so when I was writing it, there was a balancing act that you had to do in your mind about how do you make something that's so serious funny? What's the funny angle? How do you get to a point that's funny? Because you're dealing with serious issues and contemporary issues that erupt from time to time in Trinidad, in this space that's Trinidad and Tobago. I'm always thinking about music because when I do theater, I'm generally the sound designer. I'm always the one thinking which music to use. And to tell you, I go through, loads of music. If I'm in a car and I'm hearing a song playing on the radio, I immediately Shazam it because I like the feel of that song. I always am thinking music, and when I do theater, I'm the one who chooses the music, select how it buttresses the scene, how it creates and substantiates the emotional moment. How does it add to the humor? Because it can be used as a vehicle for humor too. The type of music you use in evoking the emotional response. So I'm always thinking about it. And in the process of doing Mixed Up, music, of course, was a huge discussion.
Huge discussion.
Huge discussion.
And that's why I wanted to...
Yeah, and how we got to that.
TV series side of it, and segueing from the showrunner to the director, who chose the song Mixed Up? And tell us about that process.
Well, that was a kind of collaboration between all of us, actually. Yeah. When I first came onto the project, Leslie herself, she's like, hey, I heard this song from Tree Canal, and started dancing.
To be fair, we've heard about it via Dion. And
well, look at that.
I've never heard of the song before, and this is why I love the element of music being film ready, because when she mentioned the song, it's the first time I heard about it, and we were able to share it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So a lot of times artists do music, and some of it becomes obscure,
Yeah.
or you think it becomes obscure. It's not. So how many years later? I don't even know when Chicken Island did
No,
that song. I think it was 2000.
2012, yeah.
And so the sound is now rediscovered, and we're using it as a theme song for Mixed Up. What we're about to do with it, we're still in post phase. So we're gonna, like I already spoke to the producer, original producer, Neil Bernard. And what we're gonna do is rip apart the song itself and slow down certain parts, build up certain parts, make some parts of the song Indo, make some parts of the song Afro. So when we go into doing the remainder of the series now, so we have a base to edit with, because of just what Richard said a few minutes ago. You need different emotions and tones and feels and cues and all those sorts of things. So now we have a better base to put under different parts, different scenes, and what the scenes need. You know,
We're going to mix it up.
basically.
So I wanna go right to Maarten regarding the song. So now he's writing with music in his head, we're choosing music, and we need to get the licensing for it.
Right.
Tell us about
a
that
lot of
process.
things that we just mentioned here today was really useful. So he talking about Shazam. So if you Shazam a song and your metadata not organized and you didn't register your song, we don't know who sing the song, who's the publisher, who's the producer. So all of those things, luckily a band like Tree Canal is very professional, has everything organized. So it's easily to go directly to them. They self-published. We were able to just negotiate a sync license and a master use license. And we're going to go into further use of adaptation and stuff with the licenses for the song. So it, as you said, it gives copyright a new life. So we're actually extending copyright here. So earning potential for Tree Canal greatly grows. And it's, everything is just multiplying, you know?
Yeah. One thing I'll say for artists need to understand that sometimes you have to give yourself leeway to do different types of things. Because sometimes you hear artists and most of the music sounds one way. Do different things, try different things, feel different emotions, and that way you would never know what could possibly happen. Like something like this just jumped out of nowhere. You know, so try different things, and most importantly, be Trini in what you do. Most important.
Trinbagonian, yes. So, Richard, tell me, is Mixed Up the only song that will be used each of the episodes? Tell us about that.
Well, you know, we're still in post and figuring all of that out. But I think what Nigel hinted at is that we're going to actually use the Mixed Up from Tree Canal and actually break it down, even have it like in pan, have a sitar, play it, mix it up so that it becomes the anchor theme throughout the series. So I mean, because you're looking at a genre that already exists, and you look at what they do, and oftentimes they do that. They have a particular soundtrack that they just keep with, and that's it. In terms of how they maneuver, of course, we're a little different because we are doing a song in different instruments and stuff is what we would have discussed, just to make it even more Trini and more representative of the diversity of Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct. So is it the only song at the end? Are we switching that up? And it's only local?
What I came up with is one of the biggest ways for us as Trinbagonian people. One of the things with Mix Up for me, even though it's starting as a Trinidad and Tobago thing, it is definitely going to try to get it outside, and I'm pretty sure it will get outside. But my biggest impetus for it was to showcase as much of Trinidad and Tobago as we possibly can. So what I came up with is at the end of every episode, depending on what the tone was at the end of that episode, I'd get a song, whatever the song is, whatever genre the song is, and we place it at the end. So like episode 2, the elder daughter and the elder son, they...
Hey, are you giving spoilers?
No spoilers,
No spoilers. So because of what happened at the end,
I find you should stop altogether.
we use our older calypso.
There's
Let's just leave
something
it
and
like
something
that.
and something.
And something and something.
What I want to add though, from the editing process, when Nigel was editing, Richard and I we were watching and we were listening. And at the end of the first episode, you had a different song.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
And so tell us about that experience, actually with Richard first. how important the music is in terms of creating the mood at the end as a cliffhanger for episode 1, and why we changed it. And we realized this particular song just did not work.
Yeah. It's something that it's about a feel,
Yeah.
and it's very instinctive as a creative, I guess, that you just feel that this song is not right. This song is right. and of course, it did capture, and also it gives, because it is the pilot, you want people to come back to see the other 4.
That's right.
So you have to have a dramatic enough end that grips people, which is just storytelling, basically, the craft of storytelling, that you have to keep an audience member engaged. You have to keep your audience engaged and wanting to see what happens next. That's what storytellers do. What happens next? And that's what you want the audience to feel, what happens next. And music is so important in that, because it accentuates the moment, it grips the audience even further in channeling them down that road of what happens next, I can't wait to see. And that's really what you want. And I think that was the perfect song that we got at the end there.
It was, exactly.
perfect
It's
song.
very
Yep.
mixed up. Whereas you look out for Mixed Up September 24th on TTT. Now, I will go to you, Maarten, regarding music. So we do have, that's 10 minutes, I'm taking my notes. Tell us in terms of anyone would like to submit music for us to hear for the series. Because like we mentioned, we're still exploring different themes and tones to be a part of the episodes.
Right. I mean, the principal thing we would want is that you are sure about what rights you have and who are the writers on the song. Because for us to clear rights, I can just tell you from the experience, trying to clear the rights to some of these songs was a bit of a nightmare, and I'm sure the rest of the team could understand, would know, because we're trying to find who's the publisher for a song. There's nowhere it's listed. We're calling our CMOs, our PROs, trying to get this information. We can't find it out, We go into the writers. One of the writers is unfortunately passed away, so we have to go to her estate to try and find out who's managing these rights now, and it's a nightmare, Unfortunately, nowhere is listed who's the publisher, nowhere is listed who they registered it with a PRO, so it's a battle, So, I mean, to make our lives easier, make sure your stuff is registered with your PRO. If you're gonna self-publish, make sure you have a publishing company registered so we can clear your publishing. We need to clear your master use license, so make sure all your master rights are secured, And you could definitely just email directly to us. Once you have all that information down, send it to us, and we'll share it with the team. And make sure and watch the first episode so you can know that, hey, my thing is going to kind of fit with this series, We don't want somebody sending us something straight out of left field. I mean, it might work.
It might, yeah.
But, it'll be easier for us to not sift through 4,000 songs and, find 10 things that feels right for us,
Yeah.
All right. So, and Nigel, tell me something in terms of if you had to talk to a composer or a musician, in terms of what type of music we're looking for. What
For the sitcom
advice
itself,
for the
or in
sitcom, or in general? Because as you all know, sitcom is a situational comedy. Like Richard said, he was listening to music to feel the mood, feel the inspiration. When we think of comedy, what are you really looking for?
Comedy is a bit of a difficult thing, because comedy isn't always just straight up funny. In this case, in Mixed Up case, we try to discuss certain topics that are important to us. So sometimes it will be a little more dramatic. Sometimes, yes, it will have the funny aspect of it. But sometimes there's a thoughtful part of what we were doing on Mixed Up that would need music that's a little more, I can't even explain that. It's the thoughtful process of thinking about, let's say, racism and stuff like that. You won't need any fast-paced music. You need something a little bit more mellow. Where composers and artists are concerned, artists in particular, I think the composers understand it to a better degree. The artists need to understand that, as I was mentioning earlier, your music cannot be one-dimensional. If your music is one-dimensional, you get stuck in a corner. We want to use your music. We want to use the music that we can use.
When you say one-dimensional, what do you mean?
Okay, let's say, for want of another genre, let's say Trinidad guys. We all know what Trinidad sings about. Most of them, 90% of them, sing about one thing. So we box them in a corner. Chances are, if we have to do something on a serious topic, or comedy or something, we'll never use the music.
Maybe not.
Chances are, because of the topics that they sing about,
Yes.
because people know associate. And if this is a family-friendly show, we just
Correct.
can't use it. So you have to expand your horizons and write different things, write more emotionally, write more dramatically, change stuff that you do. The composers get it a bit better because they know that, just as DK was talking about earlier, the different emotions that we need to pull out of people. And this, what we do, TV, film, is a psychological game. We want you all to feel. And the biggest way for us to get you all to feel is to have the music that goes together with the images to do said thing. I mean, that's what we need to get out of it. So.
Thank you. And I know we have to wrap very soon. So Richard, any last words of feedback for the audience in terms of even writing comedy and how to think about the type of music that they want to include when they write comedy based on your experience?
You know, I think that will differ from person to person. I think you just have to have an eclectic taste in music. I think you have to listen to all types of music once you're in that creative space. So similar to what Nigel was just saying there, don't box yourself in and say, well, I only listen to this, I only listen to that. Listen to a wide range of music. I'm always encouraging, my nephew, I say, I mean, there are other artists prior to 2020, other artists. There is the library of music that belongs to the planet is huge. So listen, be eclectic because that's what gives you food, and you may not realize it, but it's going to come back to you and say, hey, there's a particular song I remember.
My mother used to think I'm crazy for listening to Indian and South African jazz. She was like, what the heck is that?
I was listening to Whitney Houston and my niece said, I don't know that song. I clutched my pearls. So it's just a reality that as we moved in different generations, we really have to appreciate all of the music. And we were talking to Shari Petty yesterday, and she loves Lancelot Lane 1970s music. She incorporates his music into her films. And it feels very modern, very contemporary. And like Richard is saying, listen to all of the music. But as we tie into Maarten in terms of the rights and having your paperwork in order, that is the
that's the hard part, because I see some of my colleagues here and they do the right things, Kevin in the back there, Marcus over here, and they get sync opportunities, So, and the artists that are not doing the right things probably not getting those sync opportunities, And I'll point to Andrew right there because he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Well, you're getting called out. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this panel. And to the audience, we really wanted you all to hear the music. So we were hoping that we could as we end the panel, if the mixed up tune can play. That would be great, because we were saying mixed up for the last half an hour, and we're like, what is mixed up? We don't know. But you can go on YouTube, it's 3-canal Mixed Up 2012, and it fits perfectly with the theme, the concept, and the tone of the TV series. And like it said, and like Richard always says, because we're all mixed up. Right, so thank you all so much for this panel. And that's it.